Just wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening to Sidebar Forever. If you like the show, please subscribe to us at sidebarforever.com, as well as share episodes of the podcast on your social media. That way, new listeners can find us as well.
It is October, and it's time for another Halloween-themed episode of the pod. Today we're doing a playback review of the 2012 film Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. Starring Benjamin Walker as Abe Lincoln, we also have Anthony Mackie, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Dominic Cooper, and a handful of terrific character actors in supporting roles. This hyper-fictional reimagining of the life of Abraham Lincoln as law student / political hopeful by day and axe-wielding vampire killer by night is outrageously fun. The film is adapted from a novel by the same name, written by Seth Grahame-Smith, who also wrote Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, another book in the historical fiction action horror genre. In our chat, Adrian and I praised the spot-on casting of actor Benjamin Walker, the clever story turns involving real-life historical figures and vampire mythology, as well as some of the almost superhero-level action sequences. We also make clear our slight disappointment with some of the CGI in the movie, despite it being a period film. But we end the conversation in full agreement. Even though we've seen dozens upon dozens of vampire movies, this one still thrilled and entertained us. I'm Swain Hunt. Yes, Adrian is with me on this one, back to back like Merton Riggs, swinging the axe as we play back 2012's Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter.
And I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder. And I looked, and behold, was death, saying, "Come and see."
History prefers legends to men. It prefers nobility to brutality. Soaring speeches to quiet deeds. History remembers the battle, but forgets the blood. However, history remembers me before I was a president. It shall only remember a fraction of the truth.
And hell followed me.
There is darkness everywhere, Mr. Lincoln.
My mother was murdered. I can see the rage burning.
Tip the balance for the good of all mankind.
I shall kill them all.
It's time we had a nation of our own. This war ends tonight. Only the living can kill the dead.
I really like this movie, man. I really, really liked it. I actually half watched it because it's been running on HBO Max and on HBO for the last month or so, I guess, in anticipation of Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll watch a few scenes here and there, and but just sitting down and doing a full rewatch of it, I really enjoy it. I know it didn't do well at the box office, and I know that it doesn't have a very high score on Rotten Tomatoes, and the critics kind of panned it for a lot of reasons. They liked the inventiveness of the storytelling, and they liked the literary mashup of historical fiction and then action horror. They liked that, but they thought that the pacing was off, and that it didn't know what it wanted to be. Because it would move back and forth between the two. And that's actually part of what I really dug about it.
Yes.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was watching the movie and I'd be like, oh, okay, This is a movie about Abraham Lincoln. Okay, that's Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, that's right. I remember. Yeah, he had a lot of tragedies. And oh shit, Abraham Lincoln just killed a vampire. Oh shit. And then it would switch back, and I'd be like, okay, Abraham Lincoln. He's in the town square. He's talking to the people. He's a political hopeful and studying to be a lawyer. Okay. All right, this is a movie about Abraham Lincoln. Oh, shit, he is strung up in the pharmacy with this wild-ass looking fucking vampire. I mean, I liked that.
Yeah.
Because, and from what I watched a bit of that documentary I shared with you, that's part of what the screenwriter, the guy who wrote the books that the movie was adapted from, he wrote the screenplay as well. Mm-hmm. And he said that when they bought they optioned the screenplay, he said they met and everything, and they asked him, well, what would be your take on it if you were going to write the script? And he said, play it straight, as if this is really his life, but this fantastic part of his life actually happened. So, you have to mirror, the speeches in front of, the other senators and congresspeople and, him being president and being burdened by, the death
war.
toll and the Civil War, all of that. And then you have to have him go out at night like fucking 1862 Batman.
Yeah, or Blade. Yeah.
Blade, and laying waste to them fools, And I think they did a great job. It was very entertaining to me.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, man. And, the other thing, too, is that, and I know I've said on other episodes here on this version of the show and the previous incarnation that usually movies like this, they get under my skin, as a big history fan and someone who really takes, takes umbrage when, history is played with, when it's toyed with, you know what I'm saying? But I felt like this movie did justice to that. For the reason you just said. It had enough of a balance of, here's Lincoln giving the Gettysburg Address. Here's Lincoln at the White House, like you said, contemplating the death toll that's breaking this country apart during the Civil War. Here's him actually going down south. Well, he didn't go down south, in reality, but showing, at least in that way, that he had a conscience about slavery. Just all these other things, Mary Todd, and they did have a sickly son. Like, one of their sons actually did die. Mm-hmm. So it had enough verisimilitude there from the actual history to put in that you're like, all right, cool, that works. And just the added attraction of vampires and this supernatural element, was really woven very well into this. And I thought very much so, having the South be like an empire to itself, ruled by the vampires, using slaves as their human chattel. I thought that was very well done and so devious that I could actually believe that something could actually have happened.
Right.
The main vampire, Adam, I kept looking at him like, where do I know him from? And it's Rufus Sewell. Rufus Sewell?
Sewell, I think it is pronounced, yeah.
Okay. He's from Dark City. And I had to take a good look at his face. I was like...
I was trying to figure that out as well. And I just glanced at his IMDb and I was like, okay, well, it seems like he's done a lot of things, mostly kind of overseas. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of stuff in American cinema. But Dark City didn't jump out at me, but you're exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when I took a good hard look at his face, it hit me. I was like, Dark City. That's where I know him from. Oh, okay. And he played that role, man, as Adam, the oldest vampire. Yeah, man. Yeah, he was superb, man. I thought he was really superb. He wasn't Hans Gruber good. Right.
His performance was just spot on for what they needed.
Yeah.
Out of that character. And that was really great casting. As a matter of fact, I thought that the cast overall was really strong, with one exception, and I'll wait and I'll offer that later.
Okay.
But with one exception. So anyway, this movie came out in 2012. Again, it's based on a book written by a guy named Seth Grahame-Smith. called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. He actually wrote another book in this same genre called Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh, he wrote that as well? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And he wrote the screenplay to the movie, but the movie stars Benjamin Walker as Abraham Lincoln, Anthony Mackie as his childhood best friend, Will Johnson.
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead plays Mary Todd. Dominic Cooper plays Henry Sturgis, his kind of mentor.
Yes.
And the aforementioned Rufus Sewell plays Adam, the main vampire, the head vampire, I should say, the HVIC, the head vampire in charge. And then Jimmy Smith plays Joshua Speed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The movie's directed by Timur Bekmambetov.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, that's the best I could do with it. And Timur actually he directed
Wanted.
Wanted. Yeah, Angelina Jolie and James McAvoy. Movie's rated R, of course, which is great because you could just let the blood fly and and cut the limbs off and just be done with it. And it had a $99 million budget. It was not a success in the theaters. Mm-hmm. And again, it has a very low score on Rotten Tomatoes. But some of the things that people criticize the movie about, which I guess we maybe touched on a little bit a moment ago, those are the things that worked for me. Those are the things that really worked for me and made it sing. But let's talk about some of because this is one of those rare kind of modern movies that I really do think has rewatchable scenes where this part and that part, and some of them are traditional to the action genre, and then some of them were just great scenes, like when Abe, his father, passes away, and then he decides he's going to take his revenge on Jack Bartz. So it's the midnight attack on Jack Bartz, and it's under the moonlit water, and then the boathouse, and he sneaks up on him, and his gun doesn't work, and then he chases him into the room, and then he realizes at some point that he's dealing with the supernatural, and then when he shoots him in the eye, and he thinks he's put him down. And then he walks away, and then he looks back, the body's gone.
Yeah.
That whole sequence was really thrilling for me to watch, man. I was just like, because you just felt like, oh shit, Abe, you're in over your head, dog. You're in over your head.
Yeah, for real.
But that scene, the training montage, which is, that's typical action movie, him with the axe.
Yeah.
They almost should have played da 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 da.
It was almost like one of those, Steve Seagal training montages. Like you coming out of a coma, and he's up there punching the wood. Boop 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 boop.
Right, you're right. The pharmacy scene was absolutely mortifying. When Henry sends him and says, "Hey, you got to pick up a package at the pharmacy."
Yes.
And he knows there's a vampire there he's got to kill. And then when he gets there, the guy they fight, and he throws the powder in his face. Mm-hmm. And then he pulls the lever on the trap door, and he catches him. He's hanging upside down. And then he sees all those other black bodies hanging under there where he's slit their throats and draining them.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That was just...
Yes, yes.
But, yeah, and then, the horse stampede was a little much.
Just a tad. I was like, that's the only part where I was like, yeah, there's canyons in Illinois? What? How is what? How did y'all go all the way out to Colorado and then come back to Illinois in one scene? There's not that many horses.
Hey, man.
I was like, that was crazy. That was crazy. But
what about the plantation ball slaughter, yo?
Man, you know what? Probably us being a combination of, obviously we're black, we're Southerners, so we are very hair trigger when it comes to like that heritage, as far as like slavery and everything. And that right there, man, that was on some dark Southern Gothic type shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was just like, oh, like that actually felt like something that they probably would have done back then. Vampires are not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just, man, so it's funny how the movie, it adroitly not plays with, but it deals with that racial aspect without being super explicit. Like you never hear, the N-word dropped, there's nobody up there, maliciously beating slaves or nothing, but you do get that sense of danger, that sense of impending like doom and dread, in those plantation scenes for sure, so it's like they didn't have to be so explicit with all the, quote unquote usual tropes of like movies that deal with that antebellum period.
Right.
But it had just enough to really make that point and drive that point home for sure, man.
Yeah. One of my kind of criticisms of the movie as it relates to that was, so Alan Tudyk, from Firefly and Serenity and more recently from the Resident Alien TV show, Tudyk plays Stephen Douglas.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a point in there where, they're making speeches before, the Congress or whatever, and he refers to the slaves as the blacks. But he's essentially doing it 100 years before that term had been officially adopted by black people.
That's right. It would have been like the Negroes.
The Negroes, and then eventually the blacks, and then eventually African American.
Yeah.
So I thought that stood out to me. As a matter of fact, my wife was watching with me, and she was like, okay, nobody used that term back then. That didn't pop up until like, the 60s, the 70s maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, a small criticism, but it was something that kind of stood out to me in terms of historical inaccuracy goes. But yeah, man, that plantation scene, I love the choreography of it. I loved the wire work of it. Mm-hmm. The sequence, man, where the slaughter happens and then Abe comes in and he starts, fighting with the vampires, and he's getting the best of them. And then the camera pans up to the painting on the wall, and then those figures come alive and come down. It was so creepy, yo.
Oh, that was great. That was great,
yeah.
man.
It was so creepy. I was like, wow. And then, he's fighting with him. But the part that I thought was funny, that made me laugh. And I did turn to Chris and like, okay, wait a minute now. When the vampires were just about to get the best of them, they were going to slit Will's throat. And then Joshua Speed come crashing through the window on the carriage, basically riding around inside the mansion, and it has enough room to turn around and then jump on the back of the wagon and then run out of there. And I'm like, wait a minute, they had enough room to turn around? How fucking big is this mansion? That was crazy to me. But I mean, it worked. It worked for the kind of film this was. You know what I mean?
I had another thought, in terms of this movie, man. I was thinking, this movie, with the wire work and historical setting and all of that, it reminded me of another movie, kind of like this. You ever heard of this movie? It's a French language movie that was imported over here back in like 2004, 2005 called Brotherhood of the Wolf. Did you ever see that?
No.
Check that out if you get a chance. That movie, just as it sounds, it takes place in France, 1760s or whatever France. And it's about these guys who are hunting this wolf that's terrorizing the French countryside. And you get into like the intrigue with French society and all of this stuff. That's what the choreography from that movie reminded me of here. Because even though it takes place in 1700s France, there's all this wire work and all this kung fu. It's like, I think Wu Ping actually did some of the wire work. I was like, oh, go ahead, Wu Ping. Okay. So it's almost like Abe Lincoln, the movie, was a mishmash of like these several different movies. Like, had it not been for Blade, some of the choreography might not have been what it was. Especially like the way the Lincoln's, great coat was like swirling around as he was dispatching vampires. Definitely the wire work as well with Blade and, Brotherhood of the Wolf and stuff like that too. So you can see the influence of a lot of different things going into the movie. But as a whole, it still works so well. You could also see the influence of like comic books on it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking on Amazon and I saw that there was a Art of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter book. And I looked up a flip through of it and it had all the storyboards for the movie and concept art. And the concept art and everything was done by Aspen Studios, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Home of the late Michael Turner, you know.
Michael Turner, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, that's why this kind of looks the way it does. Like the part where Henry Sturgis throws Jim Bartz up against the barn and he like cracks all the wood going up to the full moon. That was such a comic book like shot, you know, that there are a lot of shots like that in the movie that you're like, man, that had to be storyboarded. Like that had to be pre-visualized somehow. That just looks so great.
Yeah. The Timur, the director, is an artist as well.
Okay.
So when he and the one of the producers, who was also an artist, you know, when they first got together to start working on it, that's all they did was just, you know, sketch and draw and share images, just to try to get a visual sense in their own minds. And he would also, you know, like if they had to change a shot, you know, you think you're going to shoot it one way and then you find a location, you realize you have to shoot it another way. So he could actually, you know, Timur could actually sit down and actually sketch, you know, and do storyboards and just do quick drawings to show people what it was that he was visualizing, you know, while they were on set. So that was helpful. And I imagine a lot of that art really is pretty impressive. But yeah, man, so many shots, I agree with you, that really did kind of feel like something straight out of a really well-drawn comic panel. Where you're just like, wow, you know, this is just wonderful. And, you know, again, Lincoln in the movie kind of really was, you know, like one part Batman, one part Blade.
Yes.
You know, his hat was his like his cowl or whatever, and you know, and his coat was his cape or his cloak or whatever, and you know, like you said, he would dispatch the vampires, you know, with ferocity. And this is the one thing I really like too, the final battle on the Silver Train.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The final battle itself, to me, really, you know, like in a lot of, well, let me back up. One of the things about this movie I think that stands out is the action, like what we're describing. It's really more like superhero aesthetics.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's very much superhero aesthetics. It's like, that's what they're leaning hard, almost like a Marvel movie in a way.
Oh, yeah.
So in most of those Marvel movies, there's usually a MacGuffin or some fake reason why we got to save the world or whatever. Or, you know, it just, the third act becomes, we got to stop the thing to do the thing to save everybody. Okay, we saved everybody. But this, in terms of what they were trying to accomplish, how they accomplished it, and the final battle on the train, it was relevant to the time. It felt real. Like nothing about it felt contrived. Yeah, everything was leading up to this moment politically so that he could stop the war, because the vampires had become soldiers in the war now. And so politically it became expedient for us to get to this point. And then personally, as you know, him as a vampire assassin, it was important for him to get to that point and stop Adam, who is, you know, essentially the head vampire. He's the first one.
Right.
This guy's 5,000 years old. How about the sequence when he was telling his story and they go into the animated portion, and he talks about, they would feed on the Native Americans.
Yeah.
And he was alive to see Christians be thrown to the lions, and it was all animated. That really added something special to the movie, and it was a really brave move to just for those 15 or 20 seconds, 30 seconds to go animated. But it worked wonderfully, I thought. Didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And, you know, that was the thing, too. It's like, if you admitted to the movie by that point, you really didn't mind the high quotient of CGI anyway, because you were already along for the ride.
Right.
So when it switched to just that animation, like you said, for those few seconds, you know, just for that brief scene, you know, it just added that extra to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it expanded that world just enough that you're like, oh man, like there's more stakes here than just right here in the 1860s.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I love it. I love it when movies are able to do that, you know, and they don't have to go into a long diatribe or a long passage about it, but they have some scene where it just expands just the world of that movie just enough that you're like, oh, wow. And it really brings up the stakes, you know?
Yeah. I thought so too, man. I thought that final battle on the train was great. Was really spectacular and super over the top, like super over the top, but still, you know, just a fun thrill ride. By the time you actually got to it.
And what about the part that we both like? I remember the first time I saw this movie, and you know, they're on the train and whatnot, and who was it? I think it was Speed or somebody asked like Will, like, man, so if there's no silver on this train, where is it?
It was Sturgis. Oh,
that's what it was. That's right.
Yeah.
And Will said, this isn't the only railroad we have. And it's like, yeah.
Yep,
I remember putting my fist in the air like, yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And again, you know, someone who says, okay, well, if this was happening, what would they use? What would they do? What would be the tools they had at their disposal? And as far as observations of the movie, man, like there were a couple things that I noticed watching it this last time. One, and they didn't play on this in any way, but the actor who played Abe's mom, who gets killed by Jack Bartz in the beginning of the movie, she actually looked a little bit like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, almost like he was. Oh. You know, they almost looked similar, like, you know, they were cast that way on purpose. But as to the supernatural, you know, silver is normally something that kills werewolves. So I thought it was interesting that they borrowed that from the werewolf mythology to use for vampires. I forgave it, you know, even though I tend to be kind of an elitist and kind of a strict, you know, I tend to be kind of strict as far as those things are concerned. I like slow zombies. I like werewolves that are killed with silver bullets or silver. I like vampires that, you know, garlic and stakes through the heart and crucifixes. That's my thing. And holy water.
Exactly. But you know why they probably did that though? If anything, for that scene of the battle at Gettysburg, because that's what they would have had in reality. You know, they had to mobilize all the residents of Washington, give up your silver. And the battlefield was only like 50 miles away from Washington. Like Gettysburg was real close. So to get that stuff and to make, you know, ammunition out of it, in some cases they were just stuffing the forks in the cannons, just put it in there, just shoot the mugs, you know?
Yeah.
I thought that really helped, you know, that scene as well. So that might be why they decided on silver, because back then a lot of that silverware actually was silverware. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll absolutely forgive it then. Now that I have the historical point of view there, for sure, man. And I did like the new, and I assume this is new mythology. I don't recall ever seeing this in another vampire movie. Maybe I have and I've just forgotten. But it seems like this is new mythology for this film. The idea that vampires cannot kill other vampires.
Oh, hold on. It seems like I've seen that elsewhere before. I can't place it, but wasn't there something? No, well, there couldn't have been anything like that in the Blade movies because they had vampires killing each other. But I think wasn't it they couldn't kill Adam since he was the father of all vampires, right? Or just
No, he says in the movie, he says vampires cannot kill their own.
Oh, that's right.
So this is smart writing on the part of Smith, or Graham Smith. Vampires cannot kill their own. He says only the living can destroy the dead. That's why Henry would have to get human assassins, because he couldn't do it. That's why he was always looking for human assassins. So it made sense that, as the years would go on, he would try to find another proxy, someone who could, stand in his place and actually slaughter the vampires. So I like that. And, the fact that, only the living can kill the dead. But yeah, that was great. Something I noticed that I didn't remember last time was the fact that they killed Lil Willie, yo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn. I thought maybe, okay, they just were going to come sneak in there and, you know how they do it in action movies. The villain will get near the hero's kid and let him know, I can get close. I can touch you people, but I'm not going to. I'm like, damn, she just killed little Willie.
Dang, yeah, that was cold, Joe. And they did kind of play on the trope of when something like that happens, to show the loss of innocence, you have to have like a toy drop. Like it's almost as if a toy ball should have dropped into the frame. Boom,
bounce.
Boom, boom.
Well, he dropped his little sword, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which Mary Todd gave back to that vampire. Which that's one of the only other scenes that was kind of contrived to me.
Yeah.
It's all of this chaos at the Battle of Gettysburg. They trying to, mobilize and stop these vampires and everything. So you mean to tell me Mary Todd got enough time to load Little Willie's toy sword into this musket, and that female vampire is just standing there, and just let her do it.
Right.
Run over there and kill her. But the vampire just,
Right.
I'm like, bruh, come on now.
And took one to the dome, yo.
Exactly. But I get why it was done, and it was satisfying. I was like, all right, fine.
Right. I mean, she essentially killed Mary Todd's, then only child. So it gave Elizabeth Winstead an opportunity,
something to, mm-hmm.
To have some agency and to have some, to get her own revenge,
But you know what though? That is a trope in action movies though. It's like, all right, you got the male hero. He taking out everybody. He doing his thing or whatnot. And then they'll have like a small scene of like maybe the wife of the hero, if she's in the lair or whatnot. She got to fight whoever the female is. Like, say there's a female lieutenant.
Right.
Okay, the wife breaks loose and like, come on, bitch. I got you. And then they have a punch up or whatever. And it's, just something to give her something to do. Like, I could get it too.
You're right. It is a trope that, but like you said, it was so satisfying, considering how the movie had progressed up into that point where you just kind of forgave it.
Right.
The vampire, she basically runs into the shot like Johnny at the end of Karate Kid, running into that crane kick.
You're right. Yeah.
Just head first, Yeah. But I did have two kind of major crits though, as far as criticisms. One was the CGI, which, like you said, for some of the fantastic and the action sequences, I was fine with it.
Yeah.
Even the horse stampede, it didn't lose me, but I agree with you. It went on just a bit too long.
And then when they had that one horse come right at the camera, come right at you with his faces.
Right.
All right, Mr. Ed, chill.
Right. But that one scene in the beginning of the movie where the camera pans over the town and you see the rooftops of all the houses.
Yeah.
And it's all CGI, it's all created, and you can see every brick, every shingle, every chimney, every waft of smoke, and I'm just like, okay, this is so fake. And it just took me out immediately. Because everything else they shot mostly on location in New Orleans.
Okay, yeah.
So a lot of the locations, they were sound stages, of course, but there were a lot of actual natural locations that they shot at. That pharmacy is an actual pharmacy where they shot that scene at.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. And then the scene where they're sailing down the river and then you see all these boats in the distance and you can see I was like, okay, come on, man.
But you know what, though? I kind of like those two scenes. The horse scene notwithstanding, I'm like, I agree with you. But the part where they're panning over Washington, D.C., and they're they're receding back in the ages, to just kind of show you, okay, here's the evolution of the town. And they're using the Washington Monument as like a midpoint to show, oh, man, they're building the monument and we're going back in time and whatnot. I thought that was kind of cool. But it does play up to that thing that you do see in a lot of movies and TV shows now that use CGI like that. Mm-hmm. You don't have to see everything. When everything is in perfect focus, then it's like, what's the point? You get no depth of field. You get nothing. It just looks like one big painting,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess even when they would do matte paintings back in the day, they were attempting to make it look as natural as possible. And this just looks like, hey, we can do it, so why shouldn't we do it? And it's like, because that's not how vision works. That's not how, eyeballs work. They don't work that way. But my other criticism, and maybe there's something I missed in the storytelling, did they ever really make clear in the movie why Adam and his band attacked Henry and his lady, and why Adam turned Henry and then slaughtered her? Did they ever make that clear?
To the former, I just took it that they were just just marauders. They were marauders back in look like the 1500s or whatnot. Just doing their thing. To the latter, why they turned him and then just ate her on up and everything, I don't know. I think this is my personal opinion. I think because, again, it's the innocence thing, to do that to the beloved, and you see how and that was terrifying to me. The way when Adam was biting her and just twirling her around and around and around and like this deadly tango, this deadly dance, and then he just looks over at Henry. He's like, what you gonna do about it? Can't do nothing now. You one of us now. And you see when Henry gets up to try and do something about it, that's when we find out it's illustrated that, oh, you can't kill us. And, Adam just standing there like, what?
Right.
Can't do nothing. What?
Right.
So I think in the storytelling, that's why they did it that way, to give Henry motivation to charge at Adam, and then to illustrate to us, once he tried to, he can't kill another vampire. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And I guess the other thing Adam says too is after he drinks Henry's his lady love's blood, he says she was pure of heart.
Yeah.
And you're not.
Mm.
So maybe it was a taste thing where he tastes Henry's blood and he's like, ugh. And then he tastes her blood, because there's like a whole kind of a sub I think within the vampire mythos of virgins and pure, the innocent tastes better. You know what I'm saying? There's a different that they get from killing innocents versus everybody else. So I don't know.
So he was trying to drink Evian versus Dasani water. Henry was that Dasani just
right.
Let me get a bottle of the Evian. Yeah, let me get an Evian real quick.
Yeah. One other slight criticism, and this is just, my face was kind of balled up at fair-skinned Harriet Tubman, yo.
Yeah, I totally agree. But you know what, though? And that's the crazy thing, too. And I'm glad you brought that up, all right? Now, we all know what the actual Harriet Tubman looks like. She was slight of stature, even though she was large in terms of bravery and for the exploits that she did. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You see pictures of her, we know what she looks like. But in every depiction, nearly, that you've seen of Harriet Tubman on screen, not just this movie, but a lot of other movies as well, they do give her more than a bit of an attractiveness that you're like,
Yeah.
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 So yeah, I took a little umbrage at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too, man. And to be honest, I mean, I get it to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Todd wasn't as pretty as Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
That's right.
Abe Lincoln was not as handsome as Benjamin Walker. Jimmy Simpson looked nothing like the real Joshua Speed. There are pictures of these people. These people are actors, so they're going to be attractive by nature. And I think maybe the closest they may have gotten with Harriet might be Cynthia Erivo in the Harriet Tubman movie, which I haven't seen, but I've seen pictures of her. Mm-hmm. And I'm a fan of Cynthia's, of a lot of things she's done.
Okay.
She's a really great actor. So that might be the closest, just in terms of giving you the presence and the look of Harriet Tubman on some level, as well as like someone who can really bring chops and can make it, perform it well. But
Yeah.
as far as trivia goes, man, we talked a little bit about a few things, but Abraham Lincoln, and you may already know this as a history buff, but he kept journals for most of his life.
Yes. Yeah.
So that aspect of the movie, and then them being able to like that as a through line, a true through line, would be great, because that's how Mary found out exactly what it is that Henry was doing at night. You know, he was keeping it a secret from her. And she, I said, no, I shouldn't have read your journals, but I did, and I found out, and that just as, like I said, just as something that mirrors his true life was actually kind of a cool touch, because all throughout the movie, he's writing in these journals and keeping it in his breast pocket or in his coat pocket. Because his mother, apparently when he was a little boy, his mother impressed upon him that the written word was a very powerful thing. So she encouraged him to write.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then also too, the book actually was published and released as the movie was going into production. So Graham Smith had actually written Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, and they optioned it before the book was ever finished.
Oh, damn.
And then they went into production while he was finishing the book. And then when the book came out, that's like the first few days of production on the movie. That's when it happened. So.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. That's like on some Game of Thrones type thing. I'm writing a book as we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, hey man, I had one hot take.
Okay.
It's a hot take, dog.
All right. How hot is it?
It's hot, dog. Fire hot.
All right. Okay.
And it's apropos to our last episode. The look of this film, to me, would have made a fire Howard Chaykin comic adaptation.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah.
The hats and the costumes, the way the shots were framed, the villain Adam, the guns, all the retro look of it. And look, I don't want new Chaykin who's a better, his figure drawing has improved, who's a better draftsman. I want black and white Star Reach, black and white Marvel Comics. I want Scritchy Scratch Chaykin.
You want that? You want that? You want that Solomon Kane with them striped shirts, yo? See? Now you own what I'm on. That's what I want, sir. You want that Mark and Kane?
Yes, yo. Yes, yo. I would be with it. I would buy all of that, yo, if I could have gotten that, yo. That's exactly what I want.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. Yeah, because I kind of had a similar thought as well, for sure.
Yeah. But another hot take, man. You remember how back in the 90s and the 2000s, how brothers would rock the chin strap beard?
Yes.
Abe Lincoln made that popular, yo. Abe Lincoln rocked the first chin strap beard, yo.
Man, shoot, it's like he took a pair of earmuffs and just turned them upside down, yo. Like that thing covered like his whole chin. Like, God. But I will say this though, Benjamin Walker really did a great job as Abe Lincoln, man.
He rocked it, dog.
Like he sold it from young Abe to older President Abe. I was like, he even changed like the timbre of his voice as when he got older. I was like, oh man, he did such a great job. Yeah, and the look of it, the height and everything. Yeah, totally.
He was a perfect casting choice because he was tall.
Mm-hmm.
He's not lanky per se like Lincoln was, but thin enough where he could pull that off. And he did a wonderful job, man. Really wonderful job. Just great casting. And I like the fact that they gave Anthony Mackie, he was more than just the black best friend. He had more to do in the movie. He had his own wits about him. And I like the fact that they gave Mackie, the movie is, there's a lot of martial arts and I guess what you would call, axe fu instead of gun fu or kung fu.
Axe fu.
And, lots of fight choreography and all of that. But I like the fact that they gave Anthony Mackie kind of a capoeira. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, capoeira.
Yeah, capoeira fighting style.
Capoeira, yeah.
Yeah, they gave him that kind of a fighting style, when he was having to defend himself. which, has its roots in, in the Afro Latin community.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. So I thought that was really cool.
And they gave him a bit of Chow Yun Fat, too, with the 2 guns, yo.
Oh, yeah. I keep going back to Django, yo. I got 2 guns. You got 6 shots, Will Johnson, but I got 2 guns, though. But, and again, as far as the writing goes, man, I really loved, when Adam is talking face to face, with his ultimate nemesis, Abe Lincoln. And he tells him, he says, we are all slaves. I'm a slave to eternity. You're a slave to your convictions. They're slaves because of the color of their skin. I thought that was a great tying it all together. In all of his 5,000 years, he has learned some things. And this is it. You're getting the benefit of a 5,000-year perspective. I thought that was a great quote and a great line to write out of the mouth of someone who's lived for ages and ages.
And it usually takes the villain. A good villain will do that in a good movie like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't sound right coming from the hero's mouth or any of the other characters. But sometimes you got to have the bad guy say something that only the bad guy could say. You know how people say, like, well, I guess I have to be the bad guy in this case and just tell the truth. That type of thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But overall, man, just a really wonderful, fun, thrilling. I mean, dude, we've seen 100 vampire movies and TV shows in our time.
Of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And for something to come along and still have it be, something that catches our attention and that entertains us, man, it's just a testament to the film and to the filmmakers and the production, man. But I really dug it, and I don't care what the critics say, I don't care what Rotten Tomatoes says, I stand by this movie for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I even added it to my collection, man. So yeah, totally agree. That concludes this episode of Sidebar Forever, hosted by Dwight Clark, Swain Hunt, and Adrian Johnson. You can find us online at sidebarforever.com. Any emails or questions can be directed to us at sidebarforever@gmail.com. And also, subscribe to us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.